Let's talk about the Great Pyramid. As I've always said in hundreds of podcasts, the Great Pyramid is a multifunctional stone computer and power generator. The Great Pyramid is multifunctional. The designer, the master architect, aka Thoth, not a pharaoh, not a king, Thoth. Now, he used to rule over the land of ancient Kemet. He ruled for 16,000 years. So in that way, maybe you can call him a king. He calls himself an Atlantean priest king in his own text. But I'm talking about the standard kings and pharaohs that try to take claim to the Great Pyramid structure. They only adopted or inherited what was already there and then slapped their name on it, not physically, but psychologically to the world, so that they can basically have the pride and the joy of saying, we built the pyramid. Okay. Thank you to Tamara Terry Music. I appreciate you. So that's what it's all about. You find this a lot in Egypt. When you go to Egypt with me, we take you all over the place, and you discover a lot of these pharaohs steal great things. Like say they'll steal your tomb. If they love your tomb and they are able to actually find where your tomb was dug, well, sometimes another pharaoh coming along says, you know what, I can save a lot of money if I just take his tomb and throw him in the desert in a hole in the ground. So they'll take your tomb and put their name on it. This is normal in ancient Egypt. Unfortunately, it's actually normal, pretty much predominantly within the dynastic era. If they come across a temple, they like the temple. It's my temple now. Put my name. Etch my cartouche into the columns inside this temple. So they'll take claim to that. You see? So what they're well known for robbing someone else's glory, so to speak. When it comes to the Great Pyramid, the master architect was Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, talked about in the Emerald Tablets. Okay? Talked about in the Emerald Tablets. I wrote about this 5.5 years ago. And this book has over 4,000 5 stars on Amazon. I don't know if you understand how hard it is to get that many 5 stars on a book on Amazon, but even the greatest of the greatest researchers and archaeologists and writers don't have 4,000 5-star ratings on their book. That's how hard it is to get that number, okay? And most of these people don't even know who I am in terms of like they weren't following me. These are people who ended up buying the book, just came across it looking for ancient Egyptian history, and fell in love with the book and gave it a positive 5-star rating. So thank you for everyone who's done that. And this guy, Thoth, he's the master architect, not only for the pyramid at Giza, but also many pyramids and structures around the world. Now, when you are trying to create a time capsule of information that's going to travel into the future, one of the greatest ways to do it, we're finding out now, is through stone. This guy's a master architect, and he had the capability of understanding that if I turn this stone structure into a time capsule of mathematics, of astronomical knowledge, and you'll see what I'm talking about shortly, the people in the future will realize what we did and what we knew back here. So just like the Sumerians, they etched everything into stone tablets, right? Writing in cuneiform on wet clay and let it harden into stone because they knew that paper would rot. They understood that. Parchment paper, papyruses, all these things could be easily damaged. Yes, a lot of the stone tablets are missing little pieces here and there, but overall, we have the gist of the story. And you're talking about something that lasts the test of time, thousands of years, and here we are. And so the builder, the architect, he says, I'm going to incorporate this information. Now, when you see the information that's incorporated, I'm not even going to go into all of it because it's too much to go into for one night. I'm going to give you the beginning part, and then I'll come back and add more, and then I'll come back and add more. It's a lot. But what he said was, I want to incorporate astronomical knowledge, specific knowledge, into the construction process of this building, this pyramid. I'm going to allow that to be discovered by the people in the future who finally come back to the information age and the Aquarius age to begin to research how this was built and how this was done in a way where they can be enlightened by the astronomical knowledge and the mathematics. And then he said, you know, I'd like to also have this multifunctional. So it's also going to be a power generator. It's going to send electricity wirelessly throughout the region. I'm also going to allow this to be a communications device so it can communicate with star systems that it aligns with on specific alignment periods throughout the precession of the equinoxes. I mean, all this stuff is incorporated and built into this structure. And like I said, it's so much, I can't go into all of it in one podcast. I got to come back and do it step by step. Because if I do it here now, we'll be on here for 5 to 6 hours. All right. Or a Saturday night. And that's just too much time. But I will break down to you some stuff here in the beginning and go into it. All right. Before I do that, I want to read something interesting from the Emerald Tablets, which is going to shed a little bit of light about these rejuvenation chambers that I take people to visit when we take you to Egypt. And if you want to come to Egypt, I'm going to drop the link right now in the live chat again. And I'm going to take you to see these rejuvenation chambers that Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets. It's actually the one that we go to is Ea Enki's halls of Amenti. And we take you, you'll be able to touch them, look inside of them. You'll be able to see that you're standing inside of a machine when you go there. I want to read just a little bit from the Emerald Tablets before we get into the mathematics of the Great Pyramid, all right? I, Thoth, the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti. These records of the mighty wisdom of a great Atlantis set down for the guidance of those that are to come after. He's talking about Atlantis, but Atlantis is not a ring city. According to Thoth, that's just one capital of many capitals on the planet Earth. And he rebuilt after the great flood in here in the Emerald Tablets, he starts up Atlantis again, and his home base is ancient Kemet, now known as Egypt. Before it was called Egypt, it was called Kemet. And he goes to the land of Kem. That's what he says, not me. And he starts civilization all over again after the Great Flood. He takes the hairy barbarians and he begins to reteach them the wisdom and the knowledge. And he says, I'm going to help you rebuild civilization. Okay. So he says, these records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis set down for the guidance of those that are to come after in the great city of Kior on the island of Undal in a time far past I began this incarnation. And so he goes on to say, not as the little men of the present age did, but the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. So he's talking about the fact that there's this energy that rejuvenates the bodies within these halls of Amenti, and there are more than one halls of Amenti. Each of the 7 lords have their own, and they probably have many of them in different locations hidden under the ground in different parts of the world, and maybe even on other worlds. Okay. He says, 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led to light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power have been renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Kem shall know me no more. He's talking about the fact that he goes down into these chambers. And when he goes down, he puts the body, the sleeve, his body's just a sleeve, into one of these rejuvenation chambers. Then he transfers his consciousness into another body so that he can, according to him, walk amongst men, but unlike a man. So in other words, you can sit right next to him on an airplane, in a movie theater, anywhere, at the Conscious Awards, and you'd never know that you'd be sitting next to Thoth the Atlantean. His body that is not known anymore goes into a chamber to be rejuvenated. He leaves them in there for 100 years at a time. And he's done it 100 times 10. So all of a sudden you do the math on 100 times 10, that's 10,000, and 100 years apiece, that's 100,000 years. It's a crazy number, I know, but that's what's being said here, okay? But so these rejuvenation chambers are crazy because, in my opinion, they exist. And I'm really excited to be able to take people there and give you guys a chance to see what's down beneath some of these structures. We're also going to go down beneath the Great Pyramid, about 65 meters beneath the bedrock, into a hidden chamber down there. And I'm going to show y'all what's down there beneath the bedrock, 65 meters beneath in a 65-degree angle, okay? That area is sealed off from the general population. It's only private access, and I have the key. And it'll only be us hanging out in the pyramid. There'll be nobody else there. No tourists, nobody else but us. We have the full rights to the pyramid for quite some time. The Great Pyramid is encoded with super advanced technology. I'm reading from the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets now. The Great Pyramid is encoded with super advanced technology and mathematics. Let's take a look at some of what the wisdom of Thoth encoded into the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is a massive wireless power plant, and this is just one of many multifunctional purposes of this gigantic stone computer on Earth. The curvature designed into the faces of the Great Pyramid exactly matches the radius of the Earth, the equatorial circumference of the Earth, and the pyramid embodies a scale of a ratio 1 by 43,200. That means if you take the Great Pyramid and you scale it up 43,200 times, 432, it fits perfectly inside the Earth, and the tetrahedron corners touch at the equator. If you make it a star tetrahedron, well, then you can fill up the entire Earth top to bottom, which is what they call a Merkaba. Earth's volume can be calculated from the Great Pyramid. The product of the pyramid's volume and density times 10 to the 15th power equals the ratio of volume to the density of the Earth. So you can find out the density of the Earth. In other words, we're talking about the mass of the Earth as it's filled in, the entire mass, not just the surface, but the interior. All the mass from the interior of the Earth can be calculated by doing some simple calculations based on the pyramid structure itself. Earth's mass can be calculated a different way. The mass of the pyramid equals the volume times the density, which is going to give you the 10,339,823.3 cubic cubits. Now, so Earth's density is calculated through this method. So now if you take the mass, convert it into pyramid tons, you get the actual number for the Earth density. So the Earth density is 4,217,497. When you take the mass of that and convert it into pyramid tons, you get 4,217,607. So it's slightly off by just a few digits, but you're getting the conversion of Earth's mass into the Great Pyramid. So the Great Pyramid itself is an embodiment of the Earth itself. The Great Pyramid is the actual embodiment of the actual planet Earth. Since the mean density of the Earth was defined as 1.0, then the mass of the Earth is 10 to the 15th times the mass of the pyramid tons, and then you'll get basically the mean density of the Earth by that simple calculation. The speed of the Earth around the sun can be calculated. The pyramid inch times 10 to the 8th equals the speed of the Earth around the sun, circa 2600 BCE. So if you want to know how fast Earth is revolving around the sun itself, all you have to do is take the pyramid inch times 10 to the 8th power, and you'll find out how fast the Earth moves around the sun. This is built into the construction of the Great Pyramid. You see? So what we're talking about here is astronomical knowledge. And there's so many of these occurrences of this encoded mathematics into the pyramid, you can't say it's just a coincidence anymore. The average land height can be calculated on Earth. The average height of land above sea level for the Earth is 5,449 inches. This is also the height of the pyramid. So if you take the height of the pyramid, so you have to do this. Let's take a look at this for a minute. If you want to know what height to build a Great Pyramid, because you're saying in your mind you want to base it on the average height of all the peaks on Earth, you then have to say, I've got to first count the average height of all the peaks on Earth. Now, if I ask someone to do this right now and say, can you give me the height? They're going to say, well, how will I be able to count the peaks on Earth? How will I be able to count all the mountains and the hills? Well, there's only one way to do it today, and that's with a polar orbiting satellite. You would have to have a satellite orbiting Earth, and as Earth spins on its axis, it will orbit pole to pole. And as it's orbiting pole to pole, it's scanning swaths of data, topographical data. When it's doing the topography, it's collecting information in the scan. A computer then analyzes that topography, and then it calculates how many peaks, how many hills and mountains, and the height of those hills and mountains based on the scan. Once it has all the peaks, then it has to do some simple division and come up with the average height. And then you say, okay, boom, we're going to build a Great Pyramid. I think it's 480 feet or something like that. We'll build it this height, 460 or 480. And we'll build it to this height because this is the average height of all the peaks of the Earth. We want people in the future to know this is what we did here. The Great Pyramid is built at the center of land mass on Earth. Listen to me, not the center of the Earth, the center of land mass, which means, again, you would need a pole-to-pole orbiting satellite, and as the Earth spins on its axis, it would scan swaths of data, and it would pick up topography information and data to figure out the land mass and the land mass locations. And then it would say, boop, X marks the spot. That's the center of land mass. We're going to put the pyramid right there. The center of land mass on the planet. Satellite technology is all we can use today to do something like that. There's no other way we can do it. There's zero other way. There's no other chance we have of getting that right without satellite data. We'd have to see all the mass from a distance and analyze it and make some calculations so we can figure out the center of land mass. Okay. The other thing that's crazy is we can calculate the tropical year and the calendar year. So the base side length at the mean socket level is 9,131 pyramid inches, or 365.24 pyramid cubits. And of course, 365 days in a year. All right. So you can simply calculate the days in a year based upon the base and the mean socket level. The base perimeter divided by 100 gives you 365. You take the base perimeter of the pyramid, okay, and all you have to do very simply, it's so simple. Divided by 100 gives you 365. So that's the year again. The tropical year is the length of the antechamber when used as a diameter of a circle, produces a circumference of 365, accurate to within 6 digits. The tropical year, the ratio of the grand gallery's length to the solid diagonal of the king's chamber multiplied by 100 equals a tropical year, accurate to within 8 digits. The sidereal year can be calculated. The length of the antechamber in the king's chamber multiplied by pi equals the sidereal year. Simple mathematics. It's encoded into the structure. The base side length at the sidereal socket level is 365.256 pyramid cubits. Again, the mean distance to the sun, okay? The mean distance to the sun can be calculated. So you take half of the base of the diagonal times 10 to the 6th power, which equals the average distance to the sun, okay? So what is the mean distance? The mean distance is the average distance, because obviously depending on where Earth is in its orbit and how elliptical it is or how non-elliptical it is, there's this average thing called an AU, an astronomical unit, that can be calculated through the pyramid structure. The pyramid's height times 10 to the 9th power equals the mean radius of Earth's orbit, which is 1 astronomical unit, which is how we measure distances in space, AUs. That's built into modern astrophysics. Measurements are built into the structure of the Great Pyramid right now. The mean distance to the moon. So you take the Jubilee passage length, which is inside the pyramid, times 7 times 10 to the 7th power, that equals the mean distance to the moon, 238,865 miles. Again, more astronomical knowledge. And the sun's radius. If you take twice the perimeter of the granite coffer's base times 10 to the 8th power, you'll get the sun's mean radius, which is 427,316 miles. That's the radius of the sun. So now we know how big the sun is based on the pyramid measurements. Okay? If this ain't blowing your mind, let me go back to the live chat. If this ain't blowing your mind, then you don't care about this kind of stuff. Just you go to another video. Okay? Because what I'm telling you should be on every news station. It should be taught in every school. It should be showed all we should see everywhere should be this information. I came up with these calculations 5.5 years ago and put them in my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. It's all in here. All these calculations are in the book. You can quadruple check them. You can centuple check them. You can do whatever you want. They've been reviewed by mathematicians, astrophysics professors. And then guess what? They're on point. They can't be debunked. They can't be debunked. The numbers are on point. And so this is mind-boggling. Because when we build a house today, we don't say, you know what? I'm going to build this house, but I want to incorporate some secret knowledge that I have about the universe into the structure of the house. No, the house is just built and we move in it. Half the time, we don't even build a house. We move in somebody else's house that was built and built over, sold and sold over and over and over again. Sometimes you move into a house that's been sold like 10 times by the time you get to it. Nobody's hiding any secret knowledge in these structures. It's just a house to live in until you live in and you move out, or you live there till you die. You see the wisdom of Thoth, the wisdom of advanced and forward thinking, the wisdom of creating a time capsule of knowledge inside of a structure that the time of wisdom of man in the age of Aquarius, which is now, can decipher, decode, and understand today. There's a picture of me here. I'm standing inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid in the book. This is me standing inside the Grand Gallery up in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid at Giza. The Grand Gallery inside the Great Pyramid is located at 29.9772458 degrees north. The speed of light is exactly 299,972,458 meters per second. So we're talking about the same exact numbers. Okay, one is giving you a degrees north, the other one's giving you the speed of light. Both numbers match identically. So what they're telling you in the construction of this Great Pyramid is that, hey guys, we know the theory of relativity. We understand that before Einstein was even born. Guess what, guys? We understand there's a speed of light that exists, and we're going to let you know that we knew this by building it into the structure. When I talk to scientists about this, astrophysicists about this, you know what they say? This is an interesting coincidence. It's always a coincidence. I said, let me ask you a question. In America, if you take somebody to court and trial, and you don't really have a solid case, but you can get a lot of circumstantial evidence. If you have enough circumstantial evidence, can they be convicted of a crime? Oh, yeah. Well, we're talking about convicting someone of the crime of building this pyramid. And I'm giving you so many coincidences that now we have enough circumstantial evidence to say, no, this is not a coincidence anymore. You can't have this many things inside, this many coincidences inside of one structure. It's just not going to happen, especially when you're dealing with astrophysics. So we talked about the sun's radius. Earth's polar radius can be calculated. You take the sacred cubit times 10 to the 7th power, you get Earth's polar radius, which is the North Pole to the Earth's center. Okay. So the polar radius is Earth's north pole to the Earth's center, and that comes out to 3,950 miles. You can calculate that through the sacred cubit, which is built into the pyramid. The pyramid scale ratio is 1 by 43,200. The height is 43,200. The height times 43,200 equals 3,938.685 miles, which is the polar radius, with the polar radius of Earth accurate within 11 miles. The Great Pyramid's height, 481.09 feet. Earlier I said 480 or 460 or 480. I said it's either 460 or 480. I was right. It was 480. That's the first number I threw out, 480 feet. Okay. Which is 5,813.23 pyramid inches. So the scale factor is 43,200, which is often linked to the precession of the equinox. Okay. Now, so the calculation is 481.09 times 43,200, which gives you 3,938.685 miles, which is the Earth's polar radius, which is 3,949 miles, which is the modern measurement. The error in there is about 11 miles, but it's still remarkably precise. It's right on point. Okay. So to be able to make these kind of calculations inside of a structure is absolutely mind-boggling. All right, mind-boggling. So it's like, why did they do this? Why did they create these mathematics in the structure? Again, it's a time capsule, an astronomical time capsule. Okay. Okay, check this out. The sun's parallax, all right, can be calculated. And so the sun's parallax refers to the shift in the position of the sun when viewed from Earth in two particular locations. In other words, if I'm in Florida and I'm looking at the sun, and then I hop on a plane and I fly to Colorado and look at the sun, I'm looking at the sun from two different viewpoints, okay? So there's going to be a parallax or a specific angle, and then you can get a specific average of these angles, and you're going to get the sun's parallax, okay, from different points of view. Now, to take that abstract information and program it into the pyramid is just crazy. So the pyramid encodes the solar equatorial parallax of 8.9008091 arc seconds. Because if you're standing on Earth and looking at the sun, you're looking in an arc direction to see the sun. Okay, 8.9008091 arc seconds, which is the apparent size of Earth from the sun. The height difference between the mean socket level and the level bedrock is 8.9008. So the height difference between the mean socket level and the bedrock of the pyramid will give you the same exact digits as the parallax from Earth to the sun, 8.9008 and 8.9008. Wild. So you can see that we're talking about a super advanced structure. And by the way, I wrote this in my book 5 years ago. Well, 5.5, technically, 5.5 years ago. Okay. So this information that I'm telling you isn't new. This isn't some chat GPT stuff. It's not chat GPT. It's in the book 5.5 years ago. Chat GPT didn't exist back then. And then there's posts that I've made on Facebook with the same calculations years before the book came out. Just go to my Facebook and go down to history. If you can keep scrolling, you'll find all the or type them in the search box. You'll find these calculations on my Facebook pages from years ago. So this ain't chat GPT, if you were wondering. Okay. All these formulas are inside of here. There's pages of formulas inside the book. This book isn't just a copy of the Emerald Tablets. I'm not regurgitating the Emerald Tablets in this book. This book is breaking down real knowledge. The Emerald Tablets are incorporated into the book, but the book itself is a book of knowledge. All of my years of knowledge, okay? All of my dedication, all my years of knowledge. I go into the Avatar Project. I go into Project 2045, which is what we're doing right now today, transferring human consciousness into robots and computers and eventually into synthetic embryos. I talk all about this in the book. So what they wanted to do was from year 2015 to 2020, They want to create a supply. They want to create and supply the world with affordable Android avatars that will be controlled by a system that links people's brains with computers. We have that now. I wrote about this before it even existed. 2020 to 2025, they would like to create autonomous life support systems with which a human brain can be taken out of a body and kept alive while being linked to a robotic avatar. Their hope is that the person whose body is failing can live a full life. 2030 to 2035, a group at 2045 wishes to create immortality by building a computer model of the brain that allows human consciousness to be transferred into the artificial carrier, giving everyone the possibility of a cybernetic immortality. And by 2045 by this date, they would like to have established a new era for humanity in which technological brains and transferred minds can receive new bodies with capabilities that far exceed the abilities of the standard human body. They're talking about avatars. Okay? Talking about avatars. 5.5 years old, this book. Then I talk about DARPA in here. Okay? So now I get into DARPA on the Avatar Project. That's America. The Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, is an agency of the United States Department of Defense responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. And according to Sebastian Anthony of Extreme Tech News, the Avatar goal is to work on interfaces and algorithms to enable a soldier to effectively partner with a semi-autonomous bipedal machine, a robot, a humanoid robot, and allow effectively the partner with a semi-autonomous bipedal machine to allow it to act as a soldier's surrogate. DARPA wants to develop the walking equivalent of an unarmed aerial vehicle, a bipedal robot drone, where the controlling soldier is hundreds or even thousands of miles away from the war front. So they would be in a bunker somewhere underground, and they would be linked through consciousness to a drone or a robot in the field, a robot that can go to battle. And that way, when they can control it from the perspective of the robot or the drone. And if the robot or the drone are destroyed, the soldier stays alive. Okay? That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. So, yeah. What about this stuff 5.5 years ago? It's all coming to fruition. It's all coming to fruition here. And that's in the Emerald Tablets, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. I'm dropping the link to Egypt here in the live chat again. And also, I'm going to be doing a free workshop, a free 5-hour workshop in just a few weeks. Okay, a free 5-hour workshop called the free fractal workshop. And it's going to be about the fractals of creation. It's going to be 5 hours of science and teaching. I'm going to take my time, and it's going to be 5 hours, and it doesn't cost you any money. Now, if you would like, you can make a donation when you sign up for the free fractal workshop. Okay. The donation is going to help kids in the Congo, in Africa, who are in need of supplies, medicine, and orphanage. Every year we donate money to the orphanage there, and there's now 5 or 6 of them, orphanages, but more kids have become homeless because of the wars going on in the Congo and because of the forced child labor for cobalt mining and lithium mining, which is an absolute travesty what's going on over there. These little kids are doing the work of grown men. And when they get injured, they get tossed away and they become homeless. No food, no anything. So shout out to Shaka Bars. He's helped to build these orphanages over there, and we give money every single year. So if you make a donation, that's where the money's going to be going to help these kids in the Congo. But you don't have to make a donation at all. You can still sign up for free. So I dropped the link in the live chat, and I'll drop it again. It's also in the caption of this video or this audio, the free fractal workshop. As you know, my book, Fractal Holographic Universe, okay, it became a #1 bestseller in fractal mathematics, #1 in science and philosophy, and it even hit #1 in quantum theory. Right now, I believe it's #5 in science and philosophy, #4 in quantum theory, and #2 in fractal mathematics. So it varies, it slides up and down, but it always stays within the top 10, okay? And this book is it's a science book based on the science of the Mandelbrot set equation and the fractal holographic universe. And in this book, the matrix code is actually revealed in this book. And a lot of great research from some of my mentors in here, like Professor James Gates Jr., the professor at the University of Maryland. He's a theoretical and physicist and expert in supersymmetry, and many others. So Great reviews on this book by scientist and astrophysicist Avi Loeb. He says a fascinating journey from the mathematics of fractals to the physics of the universe and the nature of consciousness. Billy Carson uses his broad-ranging vision to enrich the reader with philosophical and spiritual insights. An exhilarating read. Avi Loeb, bestselling author, director of Harvard's Institute for Theory and Computation. And there's many more other quantum physicists that have reviewed the book, like Dr. Teresa Bullard and many others, and given it a 5-star review. So I'll be teaching the science of fractals and the connection between fractals and metaphysics and spirituality. And it's going to be 5 hours. I'll drop the link one more time. It's not going to cost you any money. I just ask if you can make a donation. If you can't, you can't. It is what it is. But if you want to try to help some kids, you can do it. All right. So yeah, the pyramids, just amazing what's gone on with these pyramids, with these structures. I would like to show you something real quick on the screen. Let me see if I can pull something up because I want to show you one slide. I know we've been looking at slides. We've been looking at this thing about what's going on under the pyramids every single day because it's a hot topic. It's a really hot topic. But I want you guys to see this. Let's go here first. To the left, you see the Great Pyramid, all right, on a scale. To the right, you see the Burj Khalifa. Now, I've been to the Burj Khalifa. I've been to the very, very top of the Burj Khalifa. When you're in the top of the Burj Khalifa and you look out, when you look down, it's like you're looking at the high rises, but they look like ants. They look like little houses when you look out from the top. It's unbelievable how high this building is that skyscrapers look like ants. Okay, and I want you to get that, keep that in your mind, how big the Burj Khalifa is. If you've ever been there, you know how big it is. If you haven't, you can only look online. Now, I want you to take a look at this Burj Khalifa and the One World Trade Center compared to the size of what's underground at Giza. I just want you to wrap your mind around this for a minute, okay? I want you to wrap your mind around this for a minute. I want you to see, can you imagine fitting, this can probably hold about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, maybe 32 to 36 Burj Khalifas underneath can fill up this entire area underneath the 3 pyramids. If you can wrap your mind around that for a minute, you see, at this point, the pyramids themselves are nothing but specks of dust to me. They mean nothing anymore. What's underneath the pyramids is 10 million times more important than the pyramid itself. 10 million times more important, right? And that's me inside of one of the shafts going down beneath the pyramids. This shaft, I think it goes down, I don't know, 35 meters, all right? And what I'm trying to tell you is, if you can wrap your mind around this image here, if you understood what it took to build the Burj Khalifa, if you understood the magnitude of the size of this building, if you understood the technology needed to build it, and then it's like an ant inside of this structure underneath the pyramids. Our greatest feat in history on Earth is dwarfed by what's underneath the pyramids. The pyramids themselves is like child's play to them. The pyramid doesn't even excite me anymore. It's like, okay, yeah, they got a pyramid. What's underneath the pyramid is more exciting to me because it tells me that the pyramid was so easy. Forget about trying to figure out how they built it. What about what they built underneath the pyramids? That's the real, exploration now. That's the real question. We couldn't do this today. And if we did it, it would cost hundreds of trillions of dollars. And it would take probably 10, 15 years. It's mind-boggling. And so the mainstream wants to tell you that they built the Great Pyramid in 20 years. Okay. Okay. Is that what you're trying to tell us now? You're trying to say they built the pyramid in 20? Y'all forgot to mention about what was underneath the pyramid. You didn't bring that part up. The part of what's underneath the pyramid would take us 20 years today. Forget the pyramid part. That's just digging out the hole. And then we got to put the technology inside of it. They have columns going down there that are bigger than the Burj Khalifa. I mean, come on. It's astonishing. It really is astonishing what they've done. And I'm just telling you, it's a great time to be alive. It's just a great, great, great time to be alive right now. We're living in the age of awakening. We've entered the age of Aquarius. Just 2 weeks ago, no, just 2 months ago, people were making videos trying to say that the Emerald Tablets don't know what they're talking about. They just, somebody in 1920 just made up a sci-fi story. Okay, well, how come the quantum physics in the Emerald Tablets that I wrote about 5.5 years ago, some of it didn't even exist until just a year ago. Some of it didn't even exist until a few months ago. But I wrote about it 5.5 years ago. How come? How can that be? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? You mean to tell me somebody in the 1900s just happened to get the quantum physics right exactly as it is? When Thoth in here in the Emerald Tablets talks about taking photons and cymatic frequencies and turning them into solid matter, and we just did that last year for the first time ever in history, in recorded history. We just took photons and cymatic frequencies in a laboratory and made solid matter. But I talked about it in here 5.5 years ago, and Thoth talked about it 36,000 years ago. He already did that. That's old school. That's old knowledge. All these scientists out here, it's all new age. They just finding out what already existed. They didn't discover anything. They didn't invent anything. They're just finding out what already existed thousands of years ago. How come I wrote about the pyramids and put the structure rendering underneath the ground with columns going deep beneath the earth and say that they're going on for miles? And they got columns going on 2 miles beneath the earth. It's crazy. It's so good to be on the right side of history again. Again. And guess what the age that these scientists, Filippo Biondi, the Italian scientist with the satellite that discovered this information, guess what the age he says this structure is underneath the pyramids? He says it's 38,000 years old. You know what else he says? In the writings, it says that this could be linked to the information of the myth of the Thoth, the Atlantean, that talks about the Emerald Tablets. Tea time. These are scientists that have satellites in space. And what I love is that they didn't have to get any permission from the Egyptian government to do this, because they just positioned the satellite right above Egypt and scanned it from space. Because if they would have went to the government, they would have been told no. Or they would have been given an astronomical fee to pay, and then they would have had to send them the data before it got published. So I'm so happy that they did it. They went straight to space, positioned the satellite right over Egypt, and scanned the hell out of that place. I want them to send that thing straight to Antarctica. Send that satellite to Antarctica and scan Antarctica and get us the data. And if I could find a way to support them and pay them and help them raise money to get that done, I will do it. I would love to have them go scan Antarctica and see what's beneath that ice and give us the information that they're hoarding and hiding from us with those research bases down in Antarctica. We need to see what's down there. They have been hiding it from us for decades. So I want to get that. I'd love to have that satellite position over Antarctica and you get that scan. I'd like to send it over the Amazon. I'd like to send it over the jungles of Bolivia and Colombia and get more data. And if I can help them raise money to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm reaching out to that research team because I want that information out. And I love these people because they are rebels. They don't give a damn. They ain't checking in with nobody. We're getting data and we're going to publish it. That's what I like. Get the information and put it out there. And let everybody go scrambling. Zahi Hawass, he's running around. Oh my God, they put the data out. How are we going to tell these people it's not real now? Slaves didn't build the pyramid. This structure beneath the pyramid is too complicated. It's too intricate. It's too mathematically sound. And the mathematics that I just gave you, the astronomical mathematics, which is just the beginning, what I read to you tonight is just the tip of the iceberg of the mathematics incorporated into the Great Pyramid, because I would be here for 5 hours. Okay? So you mean to tell me that slaves who are supposed to be illiterate, dumb, you can't make a slave smart, because once they become smart, we rebel and we're out of there. We'll kill you and we'll get out. We go to war against you. As soon as we get our little bit of sense in our head. You know, like Adam and Eve, they got a little bit of sense in their head in the garden. They were like, wait a minute, we ain't animals? Give me some clothes. Man, I'm out of here. So don't tell me that slaves built the pyramids, because slaves are illiterate. You don't teach slaves intricate astrophysics, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, calculus, geometry. You don't teach them that kind of stuff. You don't invest that kind of energy into a slave. You got to be kidding me. Slaves are for doing grunt work, cleaning your clothes, serving you some food, doing the farming, right? Sewing your clothes and making things for trinkets and stuff like that. Maybe they help with electro gold plating back then. Maybe they helped along with some of the artists and things, depending on what their skill set was. But getting real knowledge, like the movement of the stars and how fast the Earth can speed on its axis and move around the sun, and then to incorporate that into a structure, no, those were intelligent people. Sorry, those weren't slaves. A slave can become intelligent once it learns like everyone else, but they're denied that privilege. So since slaves didn't build the pyramids, who did it? Well, intelligent, well-taught people built the pyramids. That's who did it. Very intelligent, well-taught people, not slaves. So throw that slave hypothesis in the trash. Whoever built this thing underneath the pyramids was a super advanced civilization, far advanced than we are today. Much more far advanced. And though talked about the pyramids and what's underneath them in the emerald tablets that I then did the compendium to 5.5 years ago. This book was way ahead of its time, like way ahead of its time. So many discoveries came out since the book came out. So I'm going to do another book based on all the discoveries that were found in the emerald tablets in the compendium book that I wrote since the book came out. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Every time we turn around, it's more and more and more. Spiritual Rant says the PhD Club doesn't want to lose their government publishing contract. You know that's right. They don't want that. They don't want to lose those government grants. They don't want to be ostracized by their peers and kicked out of the scientific community for going against the mainstream. They don't want to be considered, one of the tinfoil hat wearing academic. They want you to lay down like a sheep and follow the system and regurgitate the trash over and over again, generation to generation, and they'll keep getting more grants. And as soon as they speak out, they're afraid, like, they might snatch my grant away. If they snatch my grant away, I can't pay my bills. So I better shut the hell up and fall in line. That's the problem with the system we have today. The so-called mainstream scientists, mainstream archaeologists, they're nothing but puppets. And their strings are being controlled by the puppeteer that gives them the paycheck or donates money to the college or university that they work at so they can get a paycheck there. And as soon as they start acting a little out and becoming an individual that brings real knowledge, they get threatened that they'll get their funding yanked. And once the funding gets yanked, then they got to go find a new career. And they spent half their life and all the student loans are never going to get paid off trying to get to where they are. So they're in a bad situation. I get it. It is what it is. You see? So that's what's going on out here. Some people just fall right in line. They think that's the only way they can earn money is by telling lies for a living and hiding the truth for a living. I don't know how those people can go to sleep at night. I have no clue how they can tell those lies or hide real good information for the general public and then go to sleep every night and have a sound sleep. What a way to live. No wonder why most of these people end up with diseases and sicknesses and cancers and all kind of stuff, because they're holding all that in. It's building up on the inside. All that's turning into dis-ease, and the dis-ease turns into disease. And then the next thing you know, they're pushing up daisies. All because they can't speak. They can't just give the information and tell the truth about what's going on. They can't give this. If I can sit here and figure this math out, how come they can't do it? You mean to tell me they don't know any of this math? You mean to tell me I'm the only person in the world that knew this? Come on. I don't believe that. I'm just one of the very few people to put it out and publish it. But I guarantee you some of the top mathematicians and philomaths and scientists in the world have already learned about this and figured it out. Case in point, when I went to Egypt in 2014 to go into the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid and head up to the King's Chamber, we got stopped. My guide got stopped by one of the guards, and he was telling her something along with the other archaeologists that was standing there, and they kind of looked shocked. And I said to her, Amani, what's going on? What's the problem? And she said, they just told me something shocking, that NASA now owns the rights to the interior of the Great Pyramid. And they told her that sometime in the future, they might even shut off access to it. It hasn't happened yet, but why would a space agency in astrophysics and aerospace want to have anything to do with a bunch of stone blocks on the ground? That has to tell you something. They knew about the astrophysical mathematics and knowledge encoded into the structure, and they want to figure out how in the hell and who in the hell did that.